When I say I'm a healer, it's more than being a doctor. And I am that. I'm a physician. My specialty is psychiatry. I have academic credentials from prestigious institutions that attest my training. In 1965, after finishing medical school and my internship, I joined the Public Health Service, the Division of Indian Health, to fulfill my military obligation. And I was assigned to the Indian Hospital in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And it was an experience that had a life changing impact on me. In Indian country, I learned what it meant to be healthy, which I had not learned in medical school. In medical school, I learned how to diagnose and treat illness. Health was a diagnosis of exclusion. If you weren't sick, you were healthy. In the Navajo language, the word for health is hojo. It's the same word for balance, harmony, beauty, truth, and the Great Spirit. What a wonderful concept. You're healthy when you're in balance, when you're telling the truth, when what you say with your words and your lips, what you reveal by your actions, and what you believe in your heart are all telling the same story. What I had intended to be a 2-year commitment turned into 20, because in those early years, my medical school certainties were challenged. How did people get sick and how they got well was expanded. I learned the many ways that people can get sick and how they could get well. I hadn't been at the Santa Fe Indian Hospital long when an older patient came into my office and looked around as he sat and looked at me and said, "Where did you learn how to doctor?" I thought he meant, where did I get my degrees and credentials? And I pointed the diplomas on the wall, and after a long pause, he points his lip toward the wall and said, "Just because you have those papers on the wall doesn't mean you are highly educated." He looked up at the ceiling and then he looked down at the floor and he said, "I don't see anything hanging from the ceiling and I don't see anything embedded down there on the floor. But that doesn't mean that there is nothing to be learned by looking up and looking down." It was clear that he was not awed by my degrees. More importantly, he did not hold them against me. Instead, he saw something in me that made him think I was still educable. And he was willing to take the time to teach me another way of looking at the healing landscape. And that's where my transformational journey from doctor to healer began. A good doctor can make the diagnosis and treat the patient. A great doctor can make the diagnosis, treats the patient, and adds a preventative module, helps the patient learn something about how to avoid exposure to the pathogen. A healer can do all that. And in addition, a healer is someone with whom you feel a relationship, somebody who you know is going to be with you as a full participant during the whole healing process. This is actually the antithesis of what I learned in medical school, which emphasized being a dispassionate clinical observer, that somehow you shouldn't develop a relationship, get personal, because it would distort your clinical objectivity. The fact is, having a good relationship with patients actually intensifies your healing effectiveness. And the critical element in healing is a belief in the practice and in the practitioner.